I'm Anthony Mongiello. My friends call me the Big Cheese. And you're now watching Growing Up Italian, their podcast.
Grown Up Italian.
Growing Up Italian. Growing Up Italian podcast.
Growing Up Italian.
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 Growing Up Italian podcast.
Growing Up Italian.
Growing Up Italian.
Growing Up Italian podcast.
Growing Up Italian. Woo!
Actually been by your factory. Remember when I came by the factory that time?
I do.
Yeah, he had the whole outfit on. I don't know, dude. They take it so serious that they made me put a hairnet.
I mean, you have to, right? You look like a chemist.
I don't know how much I really got, but that's how you know a place takes it very serious. And but I was super impressed by the facility.
Thank you. We just expanded. I spent like $6 million over the last 2 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Bigger facility?
Yes. You know, I never thought 22 years ago when we moved up here, that up there anyway, that I'd have to expand this building. When I built it so big that I never thought I'd grow into it the way we did. But we really, we've tripled our sales in the last 2 years.
God bless.
Yes, and it's thank to God that I have what I have. And we've added on a nice expansion, over 18,000 square feet on the building itself, then put up more additional buildings in the back, put in new roads for the trailers and all kinds of equipment to try and make the process a little bit better and successfully doing it. It's been a heck of a journey, I'll tell you.
Yeah, when I came to visit the factory, I remember seeing I think the whole town works for you. It was crazy because I remember when you were walking around, you knew every one of your employees' names.
You know, I'll be honest with you. There was a company came in to try and unionize us about 2 years ago. And because I know all my employees, we won an 80-20 vote. 80% didn't want the union in there. And that really is a testament to who I am, I think, as a boss, and who we are as a company, and how we really work together and care a lot about our employees. You know, we have an open door policy. One of the biggest things was, if a union did come in here, you can't come upstairs and knock on my door anymore and, you know, either tell me what your situation is or what your problem is or what it is you need for the company or, you know, us to do to help you. And that's what really sold it in a way. I believe it's true that's what it was. And being able to communicate with your employees is really what I think is the key to being a success in my kind of business. And now we have over 310 employees. God bless. Yeah. It's a lot of mouths to feed right there. It is. And they're all doing a really great job. I have to tell you, it's amazing to watch what they're doing and the amount of product that they're turning out. Tell us a little bit about all the products you make, because you started with fresh mozzarella. I did. If we go back in 1991, I had a little garage in Brooklyn that I rented. It was 30 feet wide and 60 feet deep, and I used to run from the back to the front with my boots and my apron on because I would make the cheese and have to run to the front to answer the phone when the phone rang. And I'd, go out and try and get orders and pack them up in little boxes and put them in the back of my station wagon. Mm-hmm. And in doing that, I made product. How old were you at the time? I was just 26. Wow. And at the time, what I did was I followed what everybody else did. There was this big transition, and I lived it. My family was attached to the cheese industry. My grandfather came from Italy. It was probably around 1906. And in Italy, he was a tinsmith. So he brought his trade to America. What did he do? He made metal ricotta cans. Ricotta. In Italy? No. Oh, in America. Yeah, because being a tinsmith in Italy, working with thin metal, what could he do in the U.S.? That was the need that he filled. So ricotta today comes in plastic cans that are hermetically sealed, and it's a very clean product, right? Years ago, it wasn't. You have to understand you have curds and whey is also in the ricotta. So when you hot dip ricotta, and ricotta means to recook the whey, recook the milk, I should say, because there's still milk solids. So when you make mozzarella, you heat up milk to about 80 degrees. But there's still solids of milk left in the whey when you separate the curds and whey. And so to get that out, they add more starter and more vinegar, and they put it in a kettle, and they inject it with live steam. And they actually burn the solids of the milk out of the whey, and it floats to the top, and you'll see like a head on a beer. And then they hand dip it with like a ladle. But you had to put it in an apparatus that would allow the rest of the whey to escape. Or else if you tried to make baked ziti or lasagna with that ricotta, it was soup, right?
Yeah.
So he made these metal cans, and he had holes in them so that the whey could drain out.
Because in Italy, I've seen them have like that metal container that's all like, has all the holes.
Yeah.
Like when someone in Italy makes it. So
And that's what they're doing.
that's what they did.
They're allowing the whey to continue to come out of the ricotta so that you can use it for cooking.
So he had like a metal tin with some holes in it?
Yeah, it was a metal can. It was a 12-ounce can. They had 3-pound cans with holes in them. Again, you would hot dip it. The ricotta would go in. They'd let it sit on a table, and the whey would start to come out. Then after it got to a certain point where it was dry enough, they put it in a bag, put a rubber band around the top, and
So-
people would take it home.
That is the way ricotta is. It's so funny.
And the crazy thing about it was these cans were recycled. If you remember years and years ago, the Hoffman soda guy coming down the block with all these bottles on his truck of soda, all those bottles were recycled. It wasn't like they would grind them up and reuse them that way. They just washed them and filled them up with soda again and brought it to your house.
Or like the milk guy that would come and
Exactly.
in movies you would see it. The milkman would come and drop a 4-pack at the door.
But you don't remember that, do you?
I was born in the 90s. I don't know if it's about remembering. I think it's about
See,
not.
I know, and it's funny, but I remember that little box in front of my house. There was a little metal box. It was insulated. Never understood why it was insulated, but that was why. They put the bottles of milk in there, closed the cover, and that was your milk. That's how you got it years and years ago. And I'm the youngest of 5. So for me, like I lived through an era that was started much earlier. My household was much older. My brothers were much older than I was.
You got this like the last of it.
I did. I was the protected one.
The baby.
I was the baby. I wasn't spoiled, but I was very well protected. Growing up in the streets of Brooklyn, it was eat or be eaten,
Yeah.
And I wasn't about to be eaten, but it was really good to.
I wanted
be
to
able
ask
to be that
about
way.
your grandfather before we started talking
Yeah.
a little bit more, because the ricotta company, was it his or he was working for somebody?
It was
Yeah.
his.
Okay.
And I have a can in my office, and that one doesn't have holes in it because it was years later. But it says El Mongiello Can Company on it.
Yes.
And it was Oliva Dairy from Mulberry Street in Manhattan.
Wow.
Now, Oliva,
That's right across the street from us. Well, now they're not there anymore, but
Oliva just closed, I think, over the last year or so. They unfortunately didn't make it through COVID.
Yeah.
That was really the deciding factor for them. But I remember we went to one of the parades down there, and we went into the store, and he had the same can that I have in my office, and it's a green, white, and red can, and it says El Mongiello Can Company on the bottom, and it's amazing to realize, But my dad, going with his dad into all these cheese-making facilities, would see men, what he called painstakingly molding fresh mozzarella. So if we really understand the cheese business at all, it started out as fresh mozzarella. That's all there was. And then in the 60s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, it changed to these square consumer-sized mozzarellas.
you're talking about like the Palio square.
Exactly.
Which, by the way, growing up was my favorite. Like, we would have a square Palio in the fridge, and when my mom would make pasta, sometimes she would like put a couple of chunks and make it melt. And that was literally my favorite. I would like take a slice, and it was the best.
All that cheese was made on my dad's equipment.
Wow.
His biggest customer was Palio Dairy, Joe Palio. Joe Palio Sr. was the dad, and there was a junior. But I'll give you a little piece of history. When that company started, the gentleman's name is Polio, Pollio.
Yeah.
If we think back, we
Yeah,
realize polio was
It
a
was
disease.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he wanted to have his family name on the package, but he changed it. And they came up.
This is incredible.
Yeah, they came up with this bird, and it was Polly-O, like Polly, you want a cracker?
Yeah.
Polly-O.
Oh, wow.
And that's exactly how that package was created and why it was created. And, he was an inspiration for me. If you look on the back of my packages, you'll see my face. And the reason is that I really want to connect with my customers. And he did that. I remember seeing a drawing of the outline of him and his signature on the cup, and it was his way to connect with the customers. And, I grew up in this lifestyle that way. And I watched his signature on the cup, and I said, you know what? That's a really cool way to relate to your customers, to let them know, there's a real person behind the company. And that's one of the reasons I actually do what I do. But my dad, watching the men, when he would go with his dad into all the cheese companies making mozzarella in very hot water. Because when you make mozzarella, you're supposed to bring the curd to a core temperature of over 130 degrees. Well, to do that, you need water that exceeds temperatures of 185. And these guys would put their hands in there and they'd mold fresh mozzarella. And I got to tell you, it took a real, what do you call it, in their hands? Their hands looked so arthritic. As they got older, you'd meet guys and you're like, oh, you must have been a mozzarella maker. And you could tell just by looking at his hands.
Yeah.
Right.
We come from a family. My dad makes fresh mozzarella at Zio, and it's not fun. I've done it before. It's not fun.
It's hard work.
Well, one thing I want to ask, and you probably could answer this better. First and foremost, is it okay to wear gloves when making mozzarella?
Absolutely not.
And can you explain why?
Not according to Instagram comments.
Can you explain why?
Absolutely. I can explain why. Everybody's worried about food safety and all this stuff. Well, the reality is nothing's going to live in that hot water that's going to wind up getting transferred onto the cheese. And all those years ago, if you realize how fresh mozzarella was stretched by hand with a wooden paddle,
Really?
wood is the kind of thing that you don't really want to use because of all the nooks and crannies, right? But
Right.
the reality is the process itself kept it safe, how hot that water was. But when you are making mozzarella, you got to feel it. You have to be that artist that understands when that curd is really ready to stretch. But the other reason is, when you make fresh mozzarella, you have to realize that you have all these little curds. Now, if you can envision what a curd is, the best way for me to describe it to you is think about cottage cheese for a second. You see those little, smaller than the size of a pinhead piece of cheese, right? Well, that's a curd. Now, to make fresh mozzarella, you have to take that curd and introduce it to hot water and then stretch it. So in Italian, we call it pasta filata, the act of stretching the curds to create the mozzarella. Mm-hmm. But when you're doing that, what's in fresh mozzarella or any mozzarella is butter fat. It's naturally there because they both are derivatives of milk, right? So when you make a mozzarella, you have to close it and seal it. So when you're watching that man make that ball and then push it into his hand, he's actually closing all the pores off. And he's keeping and retaining all of that butter fat inside that mozzarella. With a glove, you can't do it. The thing slides, it doesn't close properly, you can't get the right seal. But most important, it's because as a true mozzarella maker, you are an artist. And you should feel proud of that, but you need your hands to tell you
need to feel
when
it.
it's ready. Yeah.
Now, can anybody pick up and just make mozzarella? Like if I watch his father obviously makes some of the best mozzarella I've ever had in my life. My uncle makes great mozzarella. Your cheese is obviously amazing. Can I, being someone with no experience, right? Not learn, but like get my hands in that, boiling water.
You like hot water?
Like how do you even get used to that? I don't understand.
You have to do that. You have to get used to it. You will. It's no joke, though.
It's literally like, imagine putting your
yeah.
hands in 160.
I do that when I not that I bathe. I mean, I shower obviously, but not that, I bathe, but not that
bath water is like 100 or what? I don't even know.
130? 140?
I mean, yeah, you know what I mean?
It's
Like,
very, very hot. Now, like any craft, if you understand the principles and you realize what you're trying to accomplish, you can work your way into it. Will you, as somebody with no experience, going to be able to walk over to a pot and make a mozzarella? You're going to find it to be one heck of a challenge, I'll tell you that. And the water is excessively hot. Now, I haven't had my hands in hot water in too many years, but if I go on the floor and I want to make a mozzarella, I do it. But let me tell you, I feel the pain.
It's
I
not
do.
fun.
It's hot water. But it's a really, really incredible art.
you know where I can get a fresh quality pizza with the freshest ingredients? I'm talking like homemade dough, pecorino romano grated in-house.
Of course.
Where?
Because Anthony's Coal Fire Pizza and Wings. That coal fire is at the heart of who they are.
Oh, they're that spot that's located all in the Northeast, and they have a bunch in Florida, right?
Yep.
Man, I love when you have a good recommendation for once.
And I do myself. I consider myself an artist in my field, and my cheese is my canvas. And what I've been doing for the last 33 years is I've been trying to create new ways for people to enjoy fresh mozzarella with different flavor profiles. I want to get back to my dad for a second. He would go into...
One other thing
Yes,
quick
I'm
before you get to
sorry,
your dad, because I feel this is very important to touch in on. Also, when you wear gloves when making fresh mozzarella and the water's that hot, that taste of plastic is in the mozzarella too.
It could happen. It absolutely
That's
could
the
happen.
difference I see because
And
it's...
and you want to know what else is worse? If you make a mistake wearing a glove and you put the top of the glove submerged in the water and the water gets inside the glove, well, you better get that glove off real fast.
Right.
Because that
Cook
burn
your
is
hand.
going to
You're gonna
ensue.
cook your
Oh,
hand.
yeah.
Yeah.
At least as you pull your hands out of the water, you'll see mozzarella makers put their hands in cold water just to take away that initial burn. But if that water gets inside that glove, you're not going to be happy.
Right.
Just to say
I
that.
apologize about interrupting,
You
but I
won't
thought
be
that was
happy.
like
No,
another
not at all.
important...
It is. It is. Very true. But when he would watch the men making this mozzarella, putting their hands in this very hot water, it was the kind of thing where he said, what could he do to change that? Now, he was a very intelligent man. My father, he was a genius and he was an inventor. That's what he did. He graduated optometry school, but he didn't pursue that career. He went ahead and created the very first automated molding machine in the history of the United States. That's what he did. And it was to have these gentlemen no longer have to mold the mozzarella by hand. And the other thing was, his biggest claim to fame was he had this ratchet system where you could adjust the weight of the product in the cavity as it's being molded, right? So when you sell mozzarella in a little store, you weigh it. Well, if you sell it in a supermarket like Joe Palio did, and you're saying it's 8 ounces or 12 ounces or 16 ounces, you can't be under. If you're under and weights and measures comes in, they're going to fine you for every piece that's underweight. So Joe was giving away cheese, ounces, in every piece sometimes.
To cover...
To make sure he wasn't underweight. And so my dad's biggest claim to fame was on his mozzarella molding machine was the ability to zero in on just a gram or two over. So he'd make sure they'd hit the number and not have to give away
Too much
all
product.
that product. Yeah.
That's a big difference on when you're talking about thousands of units.
You're talking about millions. Think about the size of the market and the amount of stores, and I mean it's serious money.
And it's funny because I get stuck in these videos where now with inflation, you see like products go from, let's say a peanut butter from 28 ounces to 26, and then they indent the
bottom
on the bottom.
It's a false bottom.
So what you're saying,
Looks like the same
it's fun.
container, but it's less.
You know, it's hard being a manufacturer and dealing with those situations because, look, if milk goes up, what do I have to do? I have to raise my price. You don't want to raise your price. You're dealing with these tremendous retailers, whether they're club stores or supermarkets, and to change or raise a price is a very difficult task. But more than that, it's the consumer also. And we used to call them cheetah packs. You know, if you had a false bottom and you were giving somebody 2 ounces less, like boxes of cereal, they never changed the dimension. They just changed the thickness.
They make it thinner and thinner.
Yeah, I'd pick up that box. I'd be like, what the heck is this, man? I mean, it's ridiculous.
It's like a newspaper.
It's no joke. It's no joke. But yeah, it's a terrible thing when you have to do that and raise your price. You know, it really is. But getting back to my dad, you know, I tell this story to buyers because you need the connection.
By the way, I know what you're saying because I've been in your office and I saw it framed, but I don't know if Rocco knows. So, and our viewers for that matter.
I would love to know.
My dad, look, I'm a big kid. I'm 280 all day long. One point I was over 300 pounds, but as a kid, I was always a chubby kid. And I don't know if I was the inspiration for the cheese stick or not, but what my dad wanted to do, and he wasn't in the cheese business, he was a machinist. But like I said, he created the very first automated mozzarella machine in the history of the U.S. It sounds so incredible, right? So if I go to a buyer and I'm going to give him the heritage and tell him the story and why I do what I do, you know, I don't want him to think that I grew up with a gold spoon in my mouth. It wasn't like that. If he sold a machine, I remember going to buy a used Cadillac and trying to figure out how to work the seat belts in the back of that dealership, right? But if he didn't sell a machine for a year, we ate pasta every night. I mean, it was feast or famine growing up in the streets of Brooklyn. That's just the way it was, you know? So I never want anybody to think that, you know, oh, yeah, this guy's born with a spoon in his mouth that's made of gold and he's had an easy life. I had holes in my shoes. I mean, holes the size of silver dollars. And the reality is that I'm very grateful for everything I have. But getting back to my dad, you know, we did what we did. He raised 5 kids, and we lived in a little tiny house, you know, all attached. My backyard was smaller than this room is, you know. That's just the way it was.
But you wouldn't have it any other way.
No. Those trials and tribulations and the way we grew up is what makes us who we are as men, as adults, people, you know. Yeah. And I feel like that's what's enabled me to survive the way I have. Always thinking on your feet. Always you have to be really observant of what's going on around you and be able to think outside the box. Street smarts are everything. I believe that in my heart and in my soul. That's
what makes good business too. Knowing when someone wants to take advantage and just, if you're a street guy, it makes you a better business person for the most part, the way I look at it, some of my best friends that are street guys make the best businessmen, and I learned the most from people like that.
I believe you're absolutely correct.
I agree too. But is it sad? Is it like bad to say that? Like I think I value street smart more than book smart.
No, it's not.
You need a little bit of both, or if you're street smart, you need to hire the people that are book smart.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with doing that, but if you have the street smarts and you enter into the whatever profession it's going to be, and you go ahead and you do what you have to do to perfect that trade, that craft, whatever it may be, the street smarts help you to take that skill to the next level. Mm-hmm. That's how I see it. Look, I tell my daughter, I said, Anna, look, I don't ever want anybody to BS me. And I've done every job that anybody does downstairs in my factory of all 300 plus people that work for me. So people can't feed me bologna and I'm going to eat it and say, yeah, you're right. No, it ain't going to work that way because I know better. But also it's got to do with what you said, because people do try and double talk you, you know, bullshit you, and it's wrong.
When you have the street smarts, you can kind of spot it a little easier.
A mile away.
Yeah.
A mile away. I have somebody I do business with, and every time I talk to this person, I say, do you not realize that you're trying to double talk me? Look at me. What do you mean? I said, you're trying to convince me you're right when I know you're wrong, but you're trying to tell it to me in a way where using all these words, you think you're going to convince me.
Yeah.
You know what?
Does it ever work?
Never.
Ever.
You know what I tell people? There are people that would look at me and judge me for things that happen, let's say. Right? You're a businessman, you have a business, and people will judge sometimes the decisions you make or why you allow something to happen. And I tell my daughter, because I'm trying my best to teach her the business, if anybody really thinks that I don't know what's going on, well, they're the ones that are mistaken. Yeah. If I allow something to happen, please understand there's a reason I'm letting it happen.
Yeah.
But I do know
That's
what's
powerful.
going on. I always know what's going on.
To talk about Anna Rose for a second, I do want to say as a father, you did a great job because I've dealt with her this whole process of getting you here today.
Yes.
And the legacy of Formaggio is safe because she's super sharp. She sees the vision. And when I went to the factory, I see that you guys also have other brands that she has also, like different kinds of products. So basically, your nonno started it. Your father continued it. Now it's 4 generations of manufacturers. And to me alone, like,
That's a legacy.
that's
a legacy.
That's what we work for. Like, that's the Italian
American dream. Yeah.
Like, when your ancestors came here from Italy, this is like more than they could have wished for.
Right.
You know, and you guys are doing it.
And I don't want to cut you off, B, but being that you are the youngest of 5, like, how did it fall on your lap now? Like,
That's a good question, actually. Usually it's the eldest.
It's a great question. And
not that it fell on your lap, but you know what I mean? Like,
no. I'm trying to figure out how to put this in words to make you understand how right you are with that question. Because, like, one of my brothers, would say to me, I told Daddy for years, you should go in the cheese business. And I said, well, I didn't tell Daddy to go in the cheese business. I went and took whatever money I had, and I went and invested it in myself, and I opened a cheese business. Mm-hmm. It wasn't off the heels of what Daddy did. I wanted to stay close to the cheese industry. I believed in it. And what happened was I went to college for a semester and a half. Now, I graduated high school 6 months early. I was on the Arista. I had honor roll. I had all this stuff. But I wasn't no bookworm. I just always do whatever I do 100%. And everybody should. If not, then don't do it. Why do it? If you're not going to get, I don't care if I was sweeping the floors in McDonald's, I was outside picking up what they call the perimeter. If there was a paper 20 feet away, I went to get it. I didn't look the other way. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So you always want to work.
You got your hands dirty.
Yeah, as hard as you can and do what you have to do the best you can. But as far as the siblings in my family, they had a different calling, One brother, my oldest brother, he passed at 46. May his soul rest in peace. He was an entrepreneur. He did his own thing, but very tough guy, very strong man, And he had his own thing that he did. My other brother was a fireman, and he was a 9/11 first responder, and he's now living in Long Island. He's 70 years old, and he had his path. Always helped me, though, in the cheese business. Was always there. Would pull an all-nighter with me to try and get product out the door. Always to be there to help me, My brother John, he is a very smart guy, and he fixed electron microscopes. I couldn't fix an electron microscope.
I don't even know what that is. What is that?
But to answer your question, I think it's just the passion that I had to want to do this. And when I did leave college, I went to work for a Polio cheese distributor in Brooklyn. He was the biggest in the metropolitan area, and he started to make mozzarella, fresh mozzarella, in a little trailer. I mean a trailer. He got a trailer from Polio Dairy, pushed up against his building, made a hole in the wall, and we would use that for the vacuum packaging of the product and stuff like that.
It's incredible. I think we're having such a good convo. I don't even think you said what your dad invented, because you said you were chubby little.
Right.
You said you were a chubby little kid, and you were the inspiration of the product.
A product that really changed the face of the mozzarella industry for years. He wanted to create a nutritious snack for kids. I made the very first string cheese that we know today as a 1-ounce cheese stick that Polio Dairy made first in the 1980s. And that was because, like I said, he wanted a nutritional snack for children in lieu of potato chips and chocolate bars. And again, maybe I was the inspiration, I made it for him. Meaning he took this big block of plastic, I'll never forget it, and he drilled these holes in it. You know, I'm learning from him. But I know how to make cheese, even at that age. I was 14. So I got curd, and I made mozzarella, and we put it in a piston, and we pushed it down into the holes, and then he had a piece of wood to push them out, and I went to Best Quality Breadsticks on 8th Avenue in Brooklyn because all the breadsticks used to come in perforated trays, right? Cut them up, put the cheese in there. It's funny, but like
That's
you said,
so crazy.
you come to my office, and under glass, I have a piece of the very first package that he used when he introduced this product to Joe Palio Sr. And Joe was beside himself. Angelo, this is incredible. Oh, my God. Now, you have to realize...
We got to talk the business aspect of this now, 'cause I'm curious.
You got to realize what an impact this had on the cheese industry and why.
Crispy, crunchy, savory, and sweet. Order what you want on Uber Eats.
Listen, guys, from now till the end of the year, December 31st, on the Uber Eats app, you go to Anthony and Son Panini shop, and you get a nice $25 off.
When you use the code Panini.
Gotta use the code Panini.
Terms apply. See app for details.
Man, I could really go for a drink or something.
Me too. What are you in the mood for?
I don't know, an espresso martini, something. What you got?
Say no more. Born in the north end of Boston, Brico Restaurant. It's a ready-made espresso martini. All you have to do is chill and serve.
Shake, serve, and drink that out of the comfort of your own home.
Salud.
A string cheese is made of pizza cheese. Now, mozzarella is the #1 consumed cheese in the United States because it's used on pizza. So he took, and if you remember the commercials, hey, give me a pizza with nothing. Nothing? I mean, there's a commercial. You look it up. It's the very first Palio string cheese commercial. It's in black and white. It's from the 80s. And these kids are in a pizza shop trying to order a pizza with nothing. So he opens the pizza box, and what's laid out in there? Palio string cheese. And that was the whole key. And
You mean like great, like
no. They opened the pizza box, and there was all little packages of string cheese
that's
in the box. It was a pizza with nothing. You know, no sauce. Hold the crust. Hold the sauce. What do you mean? And it was just the mozzarella.
Okay.
But pizza cheese. So we classify it as pizza cheese because pizza cheese is its own category. It's a real commodity item. So back in the 80s, when he introduced this product to Joe Palio, pizza cheese was being sold to pizzerias for $1.50 a pound. When the supermarkets took that 1 ounce stick, same ingredients, different size, different shape, right? Different demographics. Now it's a snack for kids. $12 a pound retail. There's the business end.
Yeah.
There's where you say,
That's incredible.
how in the world did we ever live without this? Look at the
It's 10 times the
profitability.
profit on that. Yeah. Oh my God.
And that product is what enabled Joe Palio, whenever he was ready, to sell his company. And he sold it, I think, for $88 million back then to, I think it was Beatrice Foods, was the first company that
Did he
bought
take care?
Palio
Did he
Dairy.
take care of your family? How did that happen? Is there beef with him?
It wasn't a beef, but you know what? People, it wasn't a patentable product. It wasn't something my dad could protect. And all he wanted to do was sell him the machine to make the product, right? Because my dad was a machinist. But Joe made all the money. Joe did what he had to do. He sold the product, eventually sold his company. But again, my father was an inventor. He was an artist, like I feel I am. And in his industry, he created one of the biggest products that has ever existed in the Italian cheese industry. And it's something we all have in our refrigerators, and we call it string cheese.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I want to tell you something about string cheese. And why is it string cheese? Those curds I told you that you have to stretch, pasta filato-wise, to make a mozzarella. When you make a string cheese like that, you extrude it. And what you're doing as you're extruding is you're stretching those curds longer and longer. And then they cut them into sizable sticks, right? So it weighs 1 ounce. But when you eat a string cheese, you actually have the ability to string it. Now, I'll tell you what I know. When you eat anything, especially that piece of string cheese, if you bit it, and you chewed it, you'd have one flavor profile in your mouth. But then when you string it and you eat it, it's a completely different experience. Why? I'm glad you asked.
Well, I'm telling you right now, the 12-year-old version of me is like ecstatic right now.
It looks like,
Because there's one day I would
really
bite
happy.
one day I would bite it, and then the other day I would pull it.
Did you?
know?
It
Yeah.
depends how hungry I was.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll open 2 at one time and put one on each side like a walrus.
Yeah, that's a veteran move right there. But so why is there a difference? I'm curious now.
My philosophy is like this, and I'm not a doctor. I'm just a cheesemaker, right? Your saliva glands, to me, activate your taste buds. And when you string it, it's a very thin thread of cheese. Now when you start to chew on it and you mix it with the moisture in your mouth, well, you're actually getting to taste these thinner pieces of cheese compared to biting it where you have these chunks in your mouth. See, chunks and strings are 2 different things. And so you really get that experience of what that pizza cheese tastes like if you string it when you eat it. And you do watch the kids. This is what they do. And it also made it fun for them to eat. It was different than just biting that cheese stick, right? But the flavor profile, I want everybody to try it. Anybody listening, everybody watching, try what I'm telling you, and you'll realize that there truly is a difference. So when we make our sticks of cheese, I don't call that string cheese. That's a fresh mozzarella stick. Why? Because when you make a mozzarella in a machine these days, you have 2 augers that are pushing it towards a cavity that's going to turn after it gets full, right? But there's not a lot of extra stretching going on like you would have in an extrusion type of machine to make a string cheese. So I wanted the stick for the artisan wraps to be a different mouthfeel and a different bite effect. When you bite it, I want it to break. I don't want it to pull back on you. Because we wrap our sticks with Italian meats, you want to be able to bite it, get a clean bite, and have it in your mouth that way and not have that tug or that, I'm going to call it a squeak. But you know, if you eat a string cheese and you bite it, you can almost feel it squeaking in your mouth, right?
Right.
Well, you don't really want that. You want to appreciate that mozzarella for what it is, and that's the way you should eat string cheese, is by stringing it. But when you eat our fresh mozzarella sticks, that's made just like a 1 pound fresh mozzarella. It's molded.
Yeah,
And it gives you a different mouthfeel. It has more moisture in it. And I watched that transition in my life. I watched the industry go from fresh mozzarella to the consumer-sized square ones like Polio and Sorrento made. But back in the late 80s, early 90s, is when it transitioned back into fresh mozzarella. Why? People realized they were missing something. The fat, the moisture that's in fresh mozzarella is very different than that consumer-sized one that Polio made in the 60s and the 70s. And it's incredible how the fresh mozzarella category has grown over all these years. But my dad wasn't my partner in my cheese industry, in my cheese business. He was my mentor. When I had a problem, I went to him. He'd help me resolve it. I used his equipment to start my business, and he would help me learn the proper ways to use it to come out with what it is I wanted to come out with. But there's a big thing that I ran into. So when I was running from the back to the front, making the mozzarella, answering the phone, delivering this stuff in my station wagon, I made product everybody else made. And I would go into a local guy like you, and I'd say, I want to sell you fresh mozzarella. And you'd say, hey, Anthony, look, you're a nice guy, right? But why in the world am I going to buy mozzarella from you if I'm already buying it from Sabino? You know what the truth is? I didn't have a good answer. I said, I'll give you a better price. Well, you took in the order. You saved 10 cents a pound. Then the next week you went back to your old distributor, showed him my bill, and now he went down 10 cents more or a nickel more, and you as the store owner is going to say, wow, I'm saving 15 cents a pound now, and I didn't have to do a lot of work, right? So I had the business, and then it was gone. And I went to my pop, and I said, Pop, look, I have a problem. How am I going to build a business to feed my family on such a rocky foundation. He looks at me with all of his experience and all of his wisdom, and he says to me, that's because you're selling products everybody else is. If you were able to create your own products, well, you can secure your position in the market and you can get whatever price it is you need to get for your product. You know what? That proverbial apple doesn't fall far from the tree. He was an inventor. Those words were so inspirational. That's what I did. I set out to figure out how I could build myself a niche in the Italian fresh mozzarella industry. What did I do? I realized that people buying fresh mozzarella in a supermarket, and if we think about a supermarket back in the 90s, there was a cup of Salangini, cherry-sized mozzarella.
Yeah.
You had 1 pound mozzarella in a hand wrap, a smoke. And if you went into a Oliva Dairy, it's the best thing in the world, you would see these prosciutto rolls and pepperoni rolls where these guys would make a 5 pound roll and then cut them to where they looked like a hockey puck. So they were about 4 inches in diameter, about 3/4 to an inch tall, and they would lay flat, and you'd look down at them and see this little pinwheel of meat in there, and that was a prosciutto roll or a pepperoni roll, right? And I started to say to myself, who's buying these products? So I took the Salangini in water, and I said, the only people that really buy this product are Italian people, because they're the only people that know what to do with it. Mozzarella inherently doesn't have a lot of flavor. It's made from milk. I make a joke. I tell the buyers, for the kids, we add chocolate to the milk. For the adults, they add Kahlua, Milk doesn't have a lot of flavor, right? It's not supposed to, because it's milk. It's that fresh dairy product. Well, the Italian people took that Salangini home, and what was it packed in? It was packed in water. Why? Well, when you make hot mozzarella at 130 degrees, you got to cool it, right? So you cool it in a nice bath and then leave it in the water. The balls would stay free floating in there, right? And they'd put a cover on it and they'd sell it. But again, the only people buying it in the supermarket were the Italian people who knew what to do with it. Take it home, drain the water, and marinate it. Fresh herbs and spices and garlic and basil and, make your own type of salad out of it. And I said, how can I get this into more people's hands? How can I make my customer base larger? How? I know how. What if I pre-marinated it in the flavor profiles that I grew up with, what I know Italian people do with the product, and put it in a cup and make it what I call a no-brainer? So that's what I did. We took the mozzarella and we marinated it, and we put it in oil. The truth is, I did 2 things. I created a product that everybody could buy and enjoy and not have to worry about how to make the salad, how it's going to come out flavor profile-wise. It's all done. It's in the cup. I did something else. Fresh mozzarella, being a direct derivative of milk, has a very limited shelf life. Fresh mozzarella in water will last only about 28 days, max 28 days, and it'll start to go sour. What's in the water is oxygen, as we know. So we vacuum pack things in life, right? To remove oxygen from the outer layer of whatever the product is, right? When I took those little Salangini cherry-sized mozzarella balls and I marinated them and put them in the oil, I created a vacuum without creating a vacuum. I removed all of the oxygen from the outside surface of that little ball and took the shelf life and doubled it. Jeez. So now I went to a buyer and I says, I'm not only going to increase your sales in your fresh mozzarella SKU by being able to increase the customer base, I'm going to reduce your shrink behind the case, and this product's going to last twice as long. And that was how Formaggio initially started to take off. My marinated fresh mozzarella Salangini was my flagship for the first 25 years of being in business.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
What a story. I love that.
It's real.
Yeah.
It comes from the heart. And the passion is what I try to bring to the buyers. to make them understand that we make this product in the factory the same way I do at home with love, man. We care. We cut those herbs by hand. We don't run through a chopping machine. You would destroy the herbs. We make it just as you would make at home for your family. And that's the quality we've never strayed from. But from that one day, the first day that I realized I can create items, I walk the stores and I look for the voids. I took that big matraz. We used to take let's say you go to a cafeteria and you have a little tray. That was my molding tray for my 5-pound loaf to make a prosciutto roll. But I hated the roll because you couldn't serve it. When you took that little piece and you tried to cut it up, it would fall apart. No, let's make a little roll, 2 inches in diameter. Let's make it where the consumers can slice it and it's easier for them to handle, easier to serve, and more enjoyable when you eat it. Boom, they took off.
We're very excited to announce a long-term partnership with the Soto Gastronomia out from Australia. These guys got a really, really interesting restaurant concept where all their profits go to all these Italian charities.
Tesoro has a very interesting story. So they're first generation Italian Australians.
They're basically us in Australia.
Tesoro was created in their parents' and grandparents' honor so that they can pay their legacy forward. 100% of their proceeds goes to people in need, charities, and the arts.
DeSoto will be supporting us this year, so you know the content's going to be even better.
Bro, and who knows? Maybe at some point we're going to have to take a trip down under, huh?
I was always curious how the Italian Australians made food.
It's time we find out.
So now I went to work and I start trying to continue to walk the stores, look for the voids. What can we do that's different? We've got 4 different cups. We just introduced this year our first cup with just a pesto and roasted garlic. You eat that product, you're going to say, my God, this is delicious. And it is. And we work really hard to get that homemade taste. It's important.
Yeah. And that's the difference. That homemade taste is the difference. We got to indulge a little bit in what we're here for today. You have a documentary out on Amazon.
I do.
It's based on your life, and you have a great story, but unfortunately, you know, I don't know how to put this in a nice way, but you got screwed over, I think.
I did.
I watched the documentary. I don't know if Rocco watched it.
No, I wanted to save it for the watch along.
Yeah, we're gonna do a watch along, I think, for it, because I think it's a really good story. I'm not good for you, but it's interesting to just see how that all broke down. But I want to hear your version of it.
Wow. I was actually about 18 years old. And like I said, I went to college. I left after a year and a half and went to work for a polio distributor in Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. And I was dating a girl from Brooklyn. And her mother says to me, Anthony, can you make pizza? I'll make the sauce, and, you know, can you bring the cheese, and, you know, we want to make pizza. I said, of course, no problem. So I brought the cheese from work, and I stopped at a bakery, and I picked up dough. I went to the house to make the pie. I'm not a pizzaiolo guy. I'm a cheese guy. But I've watched that guy spin pies behind the glass, I mean, my whole life growing up, you know? And as I looked at the dough balls that I bought, I'm like, you know, these things are too small. So I took 2 dough balls and I put them together. And again, I start to stretch this thing the best I can figure out how to do it after watching this guy do it for years, you know? And I knew how thin the bottom crust had to be. Lo and behold, I actually had too much dough when I put the 2 balls together. But I stretched it out, and I went ahead, and I made the bottom the thickness I thought it had to be, but I didn't realize that I pushed all the excess dough to the crust area. So in my head, I'm looking at a raw crust that was as big as a cooked crust. Well, I put the sauce, I put the cheese, and I put it in the oven. I'm thinking, I did a good job, you know? And I'm looking through the glass door of the oven as this thing is cooking. And all of a sudden, all that dough in the crust started to rise and grow and rise and grow. It looked like the size of a Zeppeli or a calzone all around this pizza. And I'm looking, I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? I'm so embarrassed. It actually diminished the size of the pizza. So if the center of the pie, let's say, was 8, 10 inches, whatever it went all the way down to 4. All the sauce and cheese collected in the center. It looked funny, but I cut it. We ate it. But again, envision this very big crust and this little slice of pizza. And I bit into the side of this crust, right? Now, you know when you bite into a Zeppeli, you'll watch it close when you bite it, and then it opens up. And you see all those nooks and crannies. That's exactly what I saw. And I said, you know, if there was something inside there, that would be great. And that's truly how stuffed crust pizza was born. And that's the item that I set out to say, well, this is going to be my American dream. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this where I can. And I made business cards and I took step-by-step photos and I had a little satchel. I'm 19 years old, walking the streets of Brooklyn. Me, my brother Lorenzo, and we're trying to get a guy in a pizzeria to say, you know, I want to license you the right to make this pizza. First, he'd listen to me, you know. What are you going to do? How do you do it? And what I did was, because I grew up in Brooklyn, this is the key to the whole thing. Pizza in Brooklyn was always sold by the slice. Who had money to buy a pie? If you had a quarter, 30 cents, you bought a slice when I was a kid. You know what I mean? That's how it was. But all these pizzerias, you buy a slice. So I created my stuffed crust pizza to where if you wanted to cut it where you had a single filling on one slice, you could. You didn't have to cut it that way, but you could. So I would go to these pizzerias and I would say, you know, I want to show you my idea and this and that. And these guys would be yelling at me.
To get out?
Get out of my store. I don't pay you nothing. Get out of here. Oh my God, these guys getting mad at me. I'm just trying to create a business. Look, you could sell a slice for 60 cents more, 80 cents more. You can get $2 more for a pie if you just put something in the crust. Man, get out of here. You're not telling me this. I make my pizza any way I want. Oh my God, it was crazy. But I never gave up on my dream. But I realized, and again, getting back to how I created it, all great inventions happen by accident, as did this. But I realized if I can get this in the hands of a conglomerate, a Pizza Hut, a Domino's, a Little Caesars, they could really take this thing where it's got to go. Now, look, I'm a young kid. And at this time, the aspect of working for the cheese guy was over. Now I'm in Manhattan. I'm a construction supervisor. I'm one of the youngest supers on the jobs, building these buildings out there. And I'd walk around the floor and I'd see, like, you know, where the carpenters were eating and where the electricians were eating. And if they had pizza that day, I'd walk over to that box and I'd open it up and I'd see all these crusts in there. They ate the pizza, but they didn't eat the crust. Went to my dad and I said, Pop, I had this idea for this pizza, and I told him the story. Now, he was a tough guy. I think all Italian guys are pops are really tough men in their own right, you know?
Miserable.
And he was what we would call the epitome of a steel fist and a velvet glove. But he says to me, I like it. And he says, you got to patent it. And he says to me, you have to think of any and every way somebody could try and look at your patent, look at your idea, possibly change it, and then steal your invention. So I did. I thought of putting a ravioli in the center. I thought of doing a stuffed crust on a square pie as well as the round pie, in the middle of a square pie, in the middle of a round pie. I tried to figure every way I could cover this, right? So I did what was the right thing. I went to Manhattan and I found a law firm. I didn't have no money. It was $3,000 to hire a law firm to have this guy try and get me my patent. I went to my friend's uncle and I asked him to lend me $3,000. I knew I had to pay him back. There was no doubt I knew I had to pay him back. But he was respectful to me and he didn't take a penny in interest. But I had to pay him back $300 a month. $300 a month back then was a lot of money. I worked my regular job, and then I used to drive car service at night. On a Friday night, I'd work my regular job, get into a car service at 6, drive all night long till 6 the next morning, sleep through the day, go back at night and work all Saturday night. I remember driving people to the airport. It was like, oh my God, I couldn't keep my eyes open, man. But I did whatever I had to do, and the trust that he gave me to pay him back the money, I lived up to, and I paid him back every dime. Meaning the sacrifice that I had to go through, I didn't give to anybody else. I put it all on my own shoulders.
That's the version of you that people don't see, you know?
It is. They don't realize all that you go through. But I did it, and I had to actually fly this guy to the patent examiner's office, my lawyer. Because every time he's talking with the patent office, trying to get the patent approved, they're telling us, that's an apple turnover, that's a calzone. No, you don't understand. It's on the crust of the pizza. It's all part of it. So after he flew out there and explained it to the examiner, I was issued my patent. Another fact, I wanted a trademark. Stuffed crust pizza, right? So I apply for a trademark, stuffed crust pizza. The examiner says you can't trademark those words. Why? It's a description. Oh, so the words stuffed crust pizza is a description. I got it, right? It makes sense. So I couldn't trademark it. So, stuffing the crust pizza with a hyphen and a dash, that I can trademark. So I trademarked stuffing the crust. Okay? I got my patent finally issued in April of 1987. In 1988, I decide I'm going after the big boys. And I'm cold calling Pizza Hut. I'm cold calling Domino's. I'm a little pimple, man. I don't know anything about business yet. I don't know what I'm doing, except I know I got a good product and I got to get it in the hands of somebody that can make a difference. Nobody paid any attention to me except Pizza Hut. And they wanted me to send the patent to them, to their R&D department. And even back then, as a young man, I said to myself, all right, wait a minute. You want me to send my patented idea to people that you're paying probably $100,000 a year to come up with new items. This is odd, but I had no choice. I had to send it where they said. And that's what I did. They looked at it, all this stuff, sent me a letter. Thank you. We appreciate you sharing your idea with us, but we are not interested in this product. In 1991, I met a guy who really took interest in the stuffed crust pizza patent. He says, Anthony, I want to try and see if we can sell it to one of the big chains again. I know you tried years ago, but I want to try again. I said, okay. And he would have a piece of whatever I got.
So this is 4 years later.
Yes.
From when you had the idea and
That's
got
right.
patented.
1991, we send it out again. Letters back. No, thank you. We're not interested in the product. Now, I start my business in 1991. My little cheese company. In 1994, my phone rings. It's a friend of mine congratulating me. Anthony, you did it. You sold your product to Pizza Hut. What? Anthony, Pizza Hut is launching a $45 million advertising campaign for stuffed crust pizza. Isn't that your idea? Now, these are kids I grew up with. Kids that we'd make the pie together in their house. It was a ridiculous thing, right? I'm like, are you serious? Now, think back. 91. No computers, no internet, no social media, newspapers. What do I do?
TV also, like
Yeah.
commercials.
Yes, exactly. But at this juncture, I run out and I get the newspaper because that's where he saw it. And here's this huge article that during the March Madness, the basketball tournament, Pizza Hut is going to run its first commercial for stuffed crust pizza. Donald Trump, Rush Limbaugh, Ringo Starr, John McEnroe. Oh my God, what's going on? You got to watch the movie. You see what I did? I start cold calling Pizza Hut. I want to talk to somebody. What's going on here? And the wildest thing, and again, I'm just in my office, and I 411 Pizza Hut. I think they were in Wichita, Kansas back then. And I'm calling, and I get Pizza Hut. I said, hi, my name is Anthony Mongiello. I'd like to talk to someone. I see you guys are coming out with a product called Stuffed Crust Pizza. Hold on, please. Another woman picks up the phone. Hi, my name's Anthony Mongiello. I'm calling about this Stuffed Crust Pizza. Hold on, please. And then a gentleman gets on the phone. I start to say the same thing. Hi, my name's Anthony Mongiello. We know who you are. We'll give you $50,000 for your patent and your trademark. I almost fell off my chair, man. I couldn't believe that somebody's on the other side of this phone, all the way out in Wichita, Kansas, that I don't know, wouldn't know him if I fell over them. And here they are offering me $50,000. And I'm reading in the newspaper that they're spending $45 million to advertise my product. What did they do? They used the descriptive sense, stuffed crust pizza.
It says stuffing.
Instead of stuffing, they did what I was rejected for the first time. Because, again, it's a description, stuffed crust pizza. It describes the fact that that crust is stuffed. Mm-hmm. And they didn't have a trademark. They couldn't stop anybody else from using those words, right? And here they are. They're going to launch this product. I couldn't believe it. I remember taping the commercials on a VHS tape, man. Every time there was a commercial, I would record it. And then there was one with the CEO of PepsiCo saying that stuffed crust pizza, with what it's done for Pizza Hut, is considered a grand slam in the restaurant industry. That's how well it did. And the facts are, Pizza Hut in 1994 was doing $4.6 billion in sales. In 95, after releasing stuffed crust pizza, they increased their sales by $600 million to $5.2 billion.
Jesus Christ.
And people ask me why I wouldn't take $50,000. Now, I'm a young kid, just started my business. In 1994, 95, $50,000 was a lot of money. And I really could have used that money to help my business. But it was just wrong for me to do that.
Yeah, it's not fair to you.
No, it's not fair, period, to anybody. Because as an immigrant, my grandfather coming from Italy, my father trying to fulfill his American dream the way his dad did, and me now trying to do for my family, I was completely robbed. And you know what? At this stage of my life, all I really want to do, because I still buy stuffed crust pizza. My kids love stuffed crust pizza. And people will tell me, how could you buy it? That's my item, man. I created that. That did not exist before me and wouldn't exist if it wasn't for me. So, as much as it hurts me, what they did from a business aspect, as I said, I consider myself an artist. Well, it doesn't matter who's selling your artwork. If your artwork is a success and it can be sold, well, that means you did a good job.
Damn right.
And that's what it's about for me right now. Because even though they stole that aspect of my American dream from me, I put my head down and never gave up. And I continued to try and create and live my American dream. And I must say, sitting here right now,
I think you definitely did.
thank you.
Oh yeah,
After
for sure.
33
sure.
years of business,
And you were blessed. You were blessed and
very blessed. Without God, I have nothing. I always try to pay it forward. You know, I live in the armpit of New York, upstate New York, and that's because I want to get my kids out of the city after 9/11, you know? And we're on the boat the other day, and it's Father's Day. I live on a lake, and, we're muttering down the lake. The sun is shining. And I always wave at people on another boat, and I wave at this guy, and he makes this weird gesture with his fingers, and then I realize his engine compartment was up. How did I spend Father's Day? Towing that guy for the next hour back to a marina because he was stuck. And all I said to him is, I want you to do one thing. I want you to pay it forward. If you ever see anybody, oh, yes, absolutely, I will. But the feeling of giving is something that's really near and dear to me. And people, if I give, and I do give, they say thank you to me. You know what I tell them? Say thank you to God, because He is the only reason I can help you. And without His blessings, I couldn't do the things that I do. And I believe that in my heart and in my soul.
Well, that goes to my next point. You seem like you are a very well-spoken guy, very soft-spoken. A lot can be learned through you.
Super humble too.
Extremely humble, extremely grounded. After all your success, I feel like you're probably the same person you were 30, 40 years ago. And I have nothing but the utmost respect for you. But why are you like this? Like, what's your why? What makes you be this person that you are today?
I appreciate everything I have. See, growing up with holes in my shoes, it was rough, man. I would actually have to walk to my elementary school. It was, I don't know, half a mile away, quarter mile away, whatever it was as a kid. It was a lot of steps as a kid. But it's raining. So I put cardboard in my shoes. And when I got to the schoolyard, just before going around the block to enter the school, excuse me, just before entering the school, I would stop, pull the cardboard that was wet out of my sneakers, and I had spare cardboard in my pockets, and I would stick them in my shoes and run the rest of the way into the school before the cardboard got too wet. You sit in school like an Indian on the gym floor, I couldn't do that. Because if I did, the kids would see the holes in my shoes, man.
Yeah. The pretzel position.
And I had to sit with my feet flat. But I will never forget what that was like. And the reason I am humble and the reason I do give is because I feel that if you are successful and if you are blessed, you need to, first of all, always give back. But second of all, the most important thing is to never forget from where you've come from. Never. Anything that I own, I try to keep it as pristine as I can because I want it to last. Mm-hmm. And that's an important thing for me. And I hope that answers your question.
It absolutely does, yeah.
I am not better than anybody else. I am me. Like me for who I am or don't associate with me. Listen, I'm sure I have my bad traits. Being humble is something I always am. Being appreciative for what I have is what I always will be. There's no doubt about it. And again, it's the trials and tribulations that we've all grown up with that makes us who we are. The things like you've done, to stride, to keep pushing, to put your head down, to work hard, to not look around. Where am I going to go here? Where am I going to go there? What's that guy got? What's that guy doing? No.
Yeah, we just focus on yourself and your family.
Family's very important, man. It's very important. A lot of people like my age, they golf. I'm going to be 60 this year. I picked up a golf club once in my life. I probably threw it and said, I'm done. But they tell me, you need a hobby. My hobby's my family. When I'm not working, I want to be with my family, whatever it is, wherever it is, as long as we're together,
You're a class act.
we're there.
I want to ask you some fun questions.
Go ahead. I'm ready.
How did you get the nickname Big Cheese?
Well, back
I mean,
then,
I see it.
You look like a guy that would be called Big Cheese, you know?
you know, it's my guru, Riley. You met him when you came to the factory.
Yeah,
He had the long hair,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I call him my guru, and Riley is a big part of my life and who I am. And Riley has many different things that he likes to do, and one of them was taking pictures. So one day at Formaggio, we were having this big barbecue for the employees, and back then we had about 100 employees, you know? And we're going ahead and we're barbecuing and all this stuff, and the wind is coming behind me and blowing my shirt out extensively. But truth be told, I was 315 pounds back then. And he took this photo of me, and I looked like a cheese ball. And he took the beautiful sunset in it, and he made a picture, and he wrote, "The Big Cheese."
I like that.
You can't nickname yourself. You know, that just doesn't work.
As bad as you want to, you can.
No.
I want a cool nickname so bad.
And he calls me Cheese every day. The way he refers to me is the cheese. And I am the Big Cheese, and I love it because
But usually the Big Cheese, like someone will refer to the boss like that also.
But
Like
I
he's
am
the big cheese there. So
but I am the boss in my world. You know, in my business, I am the boss. The buck stops with me. All final decisions are mine, and I have to take responsibility. See, my dad spoke in parables my whole life, metaphors. You know, the fish stinks from the head. I feed you a fish. I give you a fish. I feed you for a day. I teach you how to fish. I feed you for a lifetime, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I grew up. And similar to what you're saying, you, of course, understand that, right?
Yeah.
But I am the Big Cheese, and I feel so lucky to be that person. Now, I've been creating cheese items that people have never seen before for the last 33 years of my life.
do you ever get criticism from like the Italians off the boat? That's not like a real cheese. Because they criticize everything. I'm just curious.
Not really.
No?
No. You know why? Because all of those guys are the guys that are now making equipment and machines that want to sell it to us.
Yeah.
And look, what we do here in America and trying to satisfy not just the Italians or the Italian Americans is to share that heritage with everybody. Yeah. And that's what I do. That's what my whole outlook is, to want to share the Italian aspect of fresh mozzarella with the world, and to create all different ways and flavors to try and get people to enjoy fresh mozzarella products. And being that I've been doing this for 33 years, and if you cut my veins open, I'm going to bleed white, not red. So that's why they call me the Big Cheese.
You ever get tired of cheese, honestly?
You won't find a lot of cheese in my house.
Okay.
You know, they say that a shoemaker's shoes are falling off his feet, right? And it's very true. And if my wife needs cheese for a recipe or to make something at home, I actually have to bring it home fresh. You know,
Yeah.
I do. But no, I love what we do. I love the way we do it. And you know what my biggest fear was? I said, what if I run out of ways to enhance this category? Because when we do a show, I do one big show every year. We just did it out in Texas, and it's the IDDBA, the International Dairy Deli Bakery Association.
Yeah, I saw a video about something.
So with that, when the buyers come to my booth, okay, guys, what's new this year? Why? Because that's what I promise every buyer that I sell. I said, look, it's a partnership. I cannot exist without you. If I have all this product and I can't get it to the consumers because I don't have it on the store shelves, I couldn't be a success. So as a partner a good partner to you, I want to tell you that I'm going to keep this category alive. Look, any category can grow stagnant. We all need new content, new products, right? Depending on what business you're in. And the reality is that I never want my business and that case to become stagnant. So I tell them, I've been changing the face of the case for the last 33 years. No one makes artisan wraps with real fresh mozzarella. If you read that package, it says an authentic Italian experience. Why? If we're in Italy and we've got prosciutto or sopressata and we got focaccia and some olives, what do we say? Give me some pizza cheese? No, we want fresh mozzarella. And that's what we give them. We give everybody the best Italian experience they could ever want in eating Formaggio product. And Formaggio, and again, we'll go all the way back to Palio.
Listen, we're talking a lot about this. I think we should try.
I'm
some.
dying. My stomach's growling right now.
Listen,
And I've had this many times. It's absolutely
I mean, it's
delicious.
in every supermarket.
Yeah, this is
Wherever I
absolutely
go,
delicious.
and it's
Open
funny
it
because
up, man.
since I met you, I've seen it even more now. Like when I go shopping, I see them. Key Food, any supermarket, you'll find the artisan wraps specifically. But I think we should try it.
come on.
I'm always ready. It's
Should
so
we
easy.
Should we get Mario to test this? Mario.
Yes, open it up. Now, that
I'll do that one.
prosciutto,
That's my favorite.
that comes from Italy. That is 14-month aged prosciutto. And it comes directly from Italy. We take containers, I should say, every single week.
Do you have
That's
to buy the
what we
whole
do.
prosciutto?
Well, we don't have to take the container, but based on our volume right now, we're probably...
I'm saying, like, what do you do with the ends of the prosciutto? Because you probably have so much of it.
we do.
That's the first thing I think of.
But we slice as much as we can. The cool thing about the prosciutto is now they make it into what's called a mattanella. So they'll take that leg
mattanella, yeah.
and they debone it and they put it in a little press after it's all aged and cured and they make it like a block, a rectangular block.
Yeah.
So we can, really get the most out of it. If you try to slice the leg, you got thin pieces and thicker pieces and, it's not the same size as you slice it because the leg is round.
That's the stuff.
Where's
like that.
Mariusz? Does that Mario's not here?
Come on,
Well,
come on.
he's
It's
beat because
not
I'm
fun.
having.
Yeah, he wants prosciutto.
I'm doing what Sabino did when he was a kid.
Now,
That's literally what I did this morning.
here's a real key to what you're eating right now.
I love this stuff, man.
Now, see the bite? You bit that nice
Yeah,
and
yeah.
clean, right? No rubbery feeling or squeaky feeling in your mouth when you're eating that cheese because that is made just like a 1 pound fresh mozzarella. Now, what you always want to do when it comes to eating any fresh mozzarella products is you want to eat them at room temperature. So I'm very happy you asked to eat them now because they are at room temperature, aren't they? And that's the experience, the true experience that I want people to have because when I create a product, it's not just the flavor profile, it's the mouthfeel. It's what your head is going to be like and feel like after you eat it.
I feel it right now.
Do you?
I feel it right now. I'm flying, baby.
It's bouncing.
This is nuts. I mean, I've had this before, but it's so good.
Yeah, a million times.
This is so good.
It's great product, and I'm going to tell you that food safety is the number one thing for Formaggio, right? So all of these meats, so you wouldn't know as a consumer, but they're all purified meats. And what that means is,
on in,
unfortunately, you got pathogens and things that could exist in deli meats, right? We put
people
all
there.
of our meats through what's called an HPP process.
Yeah.
Where under 87,000 pounds of pressure per square inch, they put them in a capsule, they flood it with water, and then they go ahead and they add all this pressure, and that gives us the longevity we need in the product. We know it's food safe for everybody to consume, and the proof is in the flavor.
It's
profile.
incredible.
That's bad though because I think I could eat that whole
You
strip
could.
by
Easily.
myself.
But that's the thing. It's like you light a fuse on a piece of dynamite, man. No matter what, that wick's going to go. And when you open that tray, that's what happens. They disappear. So we tried to make this one where it has various flavor profiles. You got prosciutto, you got supersada, and you've got pepperoni. So like my grandchildren, they love the pepperoni. My granddaughter Sophia, she takes the pepperoni off and just eats the stick. She loves Popeye's cheese.
Perfect.
She loves Popeye's cheese.
Mario, you want to give it a taste test? What do you think? Should I make Mario sit in my seat just for the taste test, and then I'll come in and close it out? Come on, Mario.
Mario.
Mario's gonna get us the views.
Have you ever tried? Have you ever tried it, Mario?
Ooh, I love this. Okay, can you tell me what we have here?
Okay, so the product is called Artisan Wraps. Now, the reality is that we have over 310 employees at Formaggio,
Wow.
and those sticks are all rolled by hand. I spent millions of dollars on equipment to try and roll these things. They can't do it as fast as the people can do it.
Yeah.
But that's rolled by hand, and it's a fresh mozzarella molded cheese stick. It's not string cheese. And it's wrapped with authentic Italian meats that are aged and cured in the Italian tradition.
Go for the
so you've got
prosciutto.
prosciutto, sopressata, and pepperoni.
Well, let me ask you, did you get this idea from back in the day when, like, you would wrap? Because back in the day, we'd run out for soccer or we'd run out to the summertime. So my mother would have breadsticks and we'd have prosciutto and some, and we just rolled everything up and just put two in our pocket and eat them as we go down the stairs. So I remember, these are fantastic. I have to say, I will try. I love this. Did you show the camera the packaging?
Oh, yeah.
Artisan wraps. This is delicious. Okay. And I will try the prosciutto. I'm a fan of prosciutto.
And that prosciutto is
Yeah.
authentic imported prosciutto from Italy.
Prosciutto di Parma?
See?
Ah.
It's from the Parma region,
Bravo.
and it's prosciutto that's aged 14 months, minimally.
Ti piace, Mario?
It's really, really delicious. Really good. I love the cheese. It's really, really delicious.
Yes.
And you make your own cheese. You make it your own.
And that's the key.
He's the big cheese, Mario. Come on.
See, there are other companies out there that take a slice of provolone and a slice of meat and try and roll it up. And I say, but why does people want to buy cold cuts? They can roll it themselves if they wanted to. But for the true Italian experience, you need the fresh mozzarella. And if you look at my package, it says in a really big circle call out, it says real fresh mozzarella. And we are the only company that makes this type of product this way.
This is your party pack, like for barbecues and 4th
Yes.
of July is coming. Put this
Yes.
out.
Perfect for that. And that package, that size, is one that we would sell either during the holiday specifically or always to club stores, because the club stores want the bigger ring and the bigger package. Yes, we actually sell it. So if you look at this little tray next to you, that's an insert from inside there, we sell an individual like that with each individual flavor. It's about 5 ounces, about 6 or 7 sticks in each one, and you can buy them and find them in the local supermarkets, in Walmart. But if you go to Sam's Club or Costco, you're going to find the larger tray like you have here now with the variety. And the best thing is we can custom make the trays for these stores. So if, let's say, some stores regionally, like, I'll give you an example of, let's say Walmart. If they sell that large tray, they're not into the Genoa salami. They want hard salami, you know? So we can make them any variety of the meats that they would
I
like.
like that idea because
And
I'm
that's
a
how-
more prosciutto fan, and they know that. So I'm not really into the pepperoni or the salami, but
You
this
want
is
you want
something-
straight prosciutto.
I
all
love
the way.
prosciutto, so I would want an all-tray prosciutto. But if I was having a gathering, a barbecue, Sabino does throw a beautiful party here every summer in September, closing Labor Day. So this would be the perfect party pack to walk around and just go, hey, have one. It's artisan wraps.
bring some, Mario, when it's time.
Oh, yeah. I expect you to put some.
Let me switch. Go ahead. Get your last.
Now,
I mean, you're gonna want us to open everything? I'm saving it for later. That one.
save it for later for who?
Come on, cuz.
Now, can you tell me what because I really caught the eye on it. Can you pass me one of those, please?
Sure.
A little promo, Mario. Go ahead. Do
I like the pesto ones. The pesto and keto. Give me this.
more prosciutto, huh?
So what is the difference between this one and the
I'm pretty sure
small one?
that has prosciutto and fresh basil rolled inside. And the coolest part about that is, and how I'll describe it is this: you have this creaminess of the cheese, the saltiness from the prosciutto,
Yes.
but the snap of the fresh basil.
I love it.
Again, I say to you that we have to pay attention to not just the flavor profile, but how we as people perceive the product.
Yes.
And when you bite that and you get that snap of the fresh basil, it's just a completely different experience.
It's a full flavored package.
It is.
That's what Sabino says about me. I'm a full flavored
Hey,
package.
whoa, whoa.
No, I mean my show, my podcast.
All right.
Relax.
Yeah.
The one thing I liked about this pack, it's gluten free for those who can't have gluten.
Yes.
And it's very, you wouldn't think there's a lot of gluten in cheese, but cheese is gluten. What do you mean, this is gluten right here.
Bread has gluten.
Bread has gluten, but it's a gluten free. Do they
Free,
make
right.
cheese with gluten? Is there?
No.
So where is the gluten?
Well, what it is, as you said, a lot of people can't have gluten.
Right.
So by making it a call out, it just will enable those people to feel that they can buy this product and know right off the bat that it is gluten free.
But wouldn't all cheese's products be gluten free?
Most of them are, yes.
Yes, so that's fantastic, and I love your party packs. I love your walking. This is great for the pocket. Which I'm
Yeah.
Take the handkerchief out, man. Leave that instead.
So you go, I'm gonna take this out, go like this.
That's what we got to do. We got to sell them just like that.
Sayonara.
Oh, where you going with
And I
that?
love the prosciutto pearls with the pesto. Delicious.
All right, make sure you give us back the packaging. Oh, don't go nowhere with that. There you go. Oh, whoa. He's high off the prosciutto. One for the road,
And
man.
I really enjoyed this time with you. Is there anything else you want to ask, Rock, before?
I just want to thank you for, being a huge supporter of us. It means the world to us. This is an amazing product. And your story is even more amazing than anything that we've learned today. So
I appreciate it very much, and I want to pay you guys a compliment. You've done incredible things since the last time I met you.
Thank you. That means a lot.
And I'm going to say that as adults, especially men, only because I'm a man and I have to talk from who I am, we don't get that proverbial pat on the back that we deserve. And I want to tell you that you deserve a tremendous one for what you guys have accomplished and what you've done and where you are today. And I applaud you for that.
Thank you so much.
that means a lot.
That
Thank you
means
so
a
much.
lot.
I truly, truly do.
Nah, that means a lot.
I truly do.
And, I really look up to you, and what you've done is also amazing. And I think if you've enjoyed this podcast, you absolutely have to check out the documentary. So we'll put the link in the description.
Absolutely.
Everyone that's interested, there's more of Anthony Mongiello out there.
Yeah.
So thank you guys so much. And I hope everyone's enjoying their summers.
Till next time.
Till next
Thank you so
time.
much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys.